I just figured if I eat less and burn more, then I'll keep the weight off. I just looked at calories and recognized after a while that it wasn't just the calories that were important. And I really didn't have that eureka, Nikki, until I saw your video. And then I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Wait, you're not counting calories, you're counting macronutrients? And
Yeah.
you can have all of them?
What's going on, everybody? Hey, so today I have another amazing Warrior Babe success story to share with you guys. Linda is here, and before Warrior Babe, she had always been active and she tried to eat right, but as she got into her 60s, she realized what worked before wasn't going to get her the results that she wanted moving forward. She needed a smarter, more sustainable approach, and that's where she found Warrior Babe, and now she's lost 18 pounds, is stronger than ever, and feels better in every aspect of her life. And the best part is that she feels liberated knowing exactly what her body needs to thrive. So today, we're going to dive into Linda's story before Warrior Babe, how she found Warrior Babe, and where she is now with. I shared a little bit of the successes, but there's so many more. Linda, welcome.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks. Nice to be here. So I live in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I've been here for close to 30 years now. I am 63 years old, and right now consider myself semi-retired. I don't have an operational role in corporate America anymore, but I do board work. So I am on board of a company, a pharmaceutical company. That was the industry that I came from.
It's awesome that, and I can't wait to dive into your story, but reading your story now, being 63 years old, and the results that you've accomplished so far is really cool in a very short amount of time. We'll get to that too as well. So let's dive into looking back, like before Warrior Babe, what was your mindset around dieting before you found this sustainable approach that you're living out today in the present moment? What was your mindset around dieting?
Yeah, my mindset was always, carbs in, carbs out, or excuse me, calories in, calories out kind of thing. And so I have always been active. I was always, making sure that had some cardio. As I got older, I recognized the need to do a little bit of weight training and resistance training, so I'd incorporate that as well. Go to bar classes, things like that, yoga, Pilates, whatever I needed to kind of help myself stay and age appropriately, right? Stay healthy. But I did realize that I couldn't always control what went in here. And despite the fact that I was working out, so I just came off of a summer where I just had fun all summer. And although I was extremely active, I wasn't losing any weight. I was actually picking up a couple pounds throughout the summer, just eating in an undisciplined way, but still thought, hey, if I get my cardio in, everything would be fine. And that just doesn't work, particularly at the age that I'm at. And so I got to the end of the summer and recognized that that was not going to be sustainable for me. I can't keep yo-yoing back and forth and just really cutting my calories and assuming that I would maintain my physical activity, but that would allow me to lose some weight because it just wasn't sustainable. And I think the reason for that was my macro imbalance was incredibly unbalanced, if you will. And I wasn't eating a lot of protein and heavy carbs that I thought wasn't a big deal because it was a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, but then other things that counted as carbs that I wasn't really thinking about that added up on the carb list, and I just wasn't having a very balanced macro diet. And so I would come to the end of the day and I would have, a certain set of calories left. And it's like, oh, great, I have 200 calories. Well, I could have this scoop of ice cream because it still will keep me underneath my calorie level, right? And it just wasn't the right choice. So it's not about those calories necessarily. I was never tracking my macronutrients. And because of that, despite the calorie deficit, I wasn't necessarily losing the weight that I wanted to lose, number one. And number two, I didn't feel good. That was even more important too. It's like I just didn't feel good. And so feeling better was something that was a goal for mine, and trying to find a sustainable lifestyle change and not a so-called diet.
Love that. Can you unpack what the not feeling good to you means? Like, what were you feeling day to day when you were focusing on calories in, calories out, not eating enough. Oh, let me get the 200 more calories in. And like, what does not feeling good look like to you back in the day?
Yeah, so it was some really unexplained lethargy, like thinking that I should have a lot of energy because I'm active, and 8 o'clock rolled around and I was like, I gotta go to bed, and then not sleeping well, getting up multiple times, like sudden awakenings, and just my GI tract was always pretty good, but it was still just feeling not this overall wellness was not there. Feeling like I should have more energy, I should have more clarity of thought. I shouldn't be this tired every day. And my sleep should be more consistent. I know as you get older, you sometimes sleep less and it may be more inconsistent because you're up going to the bathroom during the night perhaps, but it just wasn't something that I was ready for or willing to accept.
Okay. Can you walk us through one of those diets or like the programs that you tried in the past? Like what was the experience like and what ultimately like led you to stop doing them?
Yeah, so I never went on one of these, popular diets that you would see, and I don't have to name them, you guys know them all. But what I would do is just say it's all about the calories that I'm eating.
Got it.
And so, as I had mentioned earlier, I just figured if I eat less and burn more, then I'll keep the weight off. But as I mentioned, that wasn't doing it. Perhaps I would lose the weight and I would get down. I was never actually down to the weight I'm at now, maybe years and years and years ago, but not within the last 15, 20 years was I ever at this weight. And so I'd lose weight. I would get to the like in the middle of the 130s. I always felt good if I was 134, 135. And, and then it was something would happen and I wasn't as dedicated because I really didn't have a rule to follow. It was just kind of calories in, burned calories. And so it wasn't anything that I felt was structured enough to really be sustainable. So it's not like I went on a no carb diet or a no fat diet or, name the diet of the month, the flavor of the month. I never really adopted any of those sorts of things. I just looked at calories and recognized after a while that it wasn't just the calories that were important. And I really didn't have that eureka, Nikki, until I saw your video. And then I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Wait, you're not counting calories, you're counting macronutrients?
Yeah.
And you can have all of them and they can be somewhat balanced, and like there wasn't this, restriction on carbs, and it wasn't just like, oh, high protein and everything else is going to be really low, because I was always really leery around any of those sorts of fad diets or those sorts of professions that here's a quick way to lose weight, or here's a way that's really going to work and it's healthier for you in the long run. Anything that wasn't balanced to me just didn't make sense. And frankly, I didn't want to deprive myself of any particular food. I consider myself a foodie. I love to eat. I'm not one of these people that eat to survive, or live to eat, or however the saying goes. Like, I do live to eat. I don't eat to live, right?
Right.
And so I do like the fact, like, it's a social outlet for me. I love, all sorts of different types of food, and I love sharing with food with people. So being on a so-called diet for me wasn't anything that was going to really fit with my lifestyle, which is what I love about this, because yes, I had to be very particularly careful when I go out to a restaurant. You don't know everything that's going into a meal that you're ordering, but I'm just more empowered and smarter around the choices that I'm picking off the menu. But I don't feel a sense of deprivation at all, which has been really magical.
I love to hear that. And it's so interesting to hear before you mentioned like at the end of the day, I would just try and get to the calories, and you were like, oh, let me get to the ice cream. And you mentioned like during that calories in, calories out probably wasn't the best approach. But how do you feel now knowing macros and feeling more like it's like you've heard me probably say like it's a skill set that will serve you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you look at ice cream now?
I don't look at ice cream and say, oh my gosh, I can't eat ice cream. Like, I feel like I can account for those treats throughout the day. but I'm not kind of jamming them in at the end of the night because I have extra calories. Because if it's going to be something that's going to be heavy in fat and I don't have those fats left, well, then I'm not going to enjoy the ice cream. I'm not going to choose the ice cream, right? So I look at that differently based off the composition of the food. And it's not to say that I can't have ice cream, but that's not going to be my choice if I've already used up my fats for the day and my carbs for the day. And I'm just looking for a little something that's maybe I need some extra protein or whatever. I'm going to throw some almonds in my mouth instead and feel completely satisfied.
Got it. So you mentioned like this is more now of a sustainable approach that you're following, and I'm interested and intrigued to know with the Instagram pop-up video of me what ultimately led you to the program. But first, before I ask you that, what were your biggest fears or like hesitations to making a change from you going to focusing in on calories out to you trusting that there's a better way of doing things?
Yeah, I don't know that I had a fear necessarily. For me, look, my background is somewhat scientific. I have an undergrad degree in science, but I ended up going in the business on the business side. So for me, it's kind of like following the science. And you would think, well, geez, didn't you ever know about macronutrients? Well, yes, I knew about macronutrients, but I didn't think about them as a way to kind of track them in a balanced way to maintain a healthy lifestyle necessarily. And so I didn't really necessarily have a fear in doing this because not only did I listen to your video, then I started researching, right? And found some other things online about the value of having that balance. And it's just intuitively makes sense to me, particularly at my age and thinking about, the need for protein. And I remember when I started with my coach and she set my protein, forget it was, I don't know, maybe 130 grams. I don't even know what it was back then, 125 grams. And I was so proud because I got up to 70 and she's like, Linda, like, you've got to eat more protein than this. And I'm like, but I was eating 45 grams. Like, this is great. I nearly doubled. And she's like, no. Like, you really have to take this seriously and think about your choices and push yourself, which was very eye-opening to me because it was like, oh, I'll kind of like glide path into this. And she's like, no, this is a change that I want you to think about every day until it becomes second nature to you. And so I needed that shove, and I really needed to see the deficit in some of these macronutrients, particularly protein, that I had in my diet. And, I was complaining that I was getting old and flabby, and it's like, we have no protein in your diet to even build more muscle, even though you were doing some weight training and some resistant training. And so that was kind of really eye-opening to me. And so I didn't really have a fear, to answer your question, going into this.
Yeah.
I had to just understand the science first, and then to believe it intuitively, and then to have somebody kind of guide me through the early parts of it where I was a little more hesitant, not because intellectually I was hesitant, but that my body was hesitant because I wasn't used to doing those habits. I wasn't used to eating all that protein. I wasn't used to thinking about things that way.
Right. Which I find so interesting because I feel like I've talked about this so many times that, protein in the fitness space it's an unknown macronutrient of the benefits in terms of what it can do for women's bodies and our metabolism and our muscles. Until you learn and understand like where you're at now, you understand how important protein is because you've been given the education and the science of the why and the how behind it. But take me back, like prior to Warrior Babe and your understanding and learning, like why wasn't protein in like what was your understanding of protein back then?
Yeah, and it probably wasn't anything that I was avoiding on purpose. Because clearly I'm a carnivore, so I eat meat. I would stay away from red meat in particular, just because of, all the commentary out there around you don't really need red meat. You can get your protein through other meats. And so I wasn't really eating red meat. I was trying to stay away. My cholesterol was going up over the years, not to the point where I'm medicated or anything, but it just wasn't something that I was happy about because I have a familial history with having high cholesterol. And so I was like avoiding egg yolks and just putting some egg whites on my salad. So that would be my protein, for that meal. I love salads. So I'm a big veggie eater, big fruit eater. And so instead of thinking about maybe some ground turkey that would give me, more protein, or adding some other sustenance to it that was protein, protein based. I would have my one egg yolk or egg white rather in my salad, and that was kind of it. And so the protein level was relatively low. I just didn't ever think about it that way. Like I would have protein at dinner, but I had protein for breakfast if I ate like cottage cheese or yogurt or whatever. But I did not recognize how much protein I need as a woman, and as a woman in my 60s, and just this notion of being able to have protein on board in your body so that you can help build that muscle that you're breaking down with your workouts. So, that was a big aha to me. And another thing I'll say is, and I was just talking to a woman in my bar class the other day about this. She's talking about coming to bar to build her muscle and to tone, and I'm like, you're not building your muscle, you're breaking down your muscle during your workouts. You need protein on board to build up your muscle. Yes. And it's a myth that we all think when you're working out, you're working with these biceps, you're working on your biceps, you're working with your dump, you're thinking that you're building your muscle. And that's the one thing I learned with you guys. No, you're really tearing down that muscle, and you need to have that protein there to make sure that you can build that back up. So just little tidbits like that it didn't even necessarily occur to me to put all these things together in terms of my consumption of protein.
And I can really resonate with the way that you're articulating that story. Like when I first started my journey, I didn't know how important protein was, but along the way there was little aha moments that I experienced when I learned and went through my journey and got certified and continued on with the education of nutrition and exercise. There was tons of aha moments of like, wow, protein is so important. Because prior it was like I would have protein in the morning and I have protein at lunch and I have protein at dinner. Or I would buy protein bars and I was like, oh, there's 10 grams of protein in it. Yay, that's protein, And I think a lot of women can resonate with both of the stories. I think you articulated that really well. And it made me understand that some of those, it was just an understanding of the protein aspect. And prior, it's almost not there until you seek and understand how important protein is into your journey. But then the second thing you said with the bar class too, and how you break down the muscle and how you build it up post, society thinks that, and I just made a podcast about this last week, that it goes cardio, exercise, nutrition. And maybe like you would be ambitious to even focus on nutrition. It's totally the flip side of that. It's nutrition, exercise, and then, cardio can be used as a tool and a resource. So I love that. I love, and what we talked about too prior to this, before we even hit record, was you just spreading the word of the people that are in your space that you run into, and that you, even at your doctor's appointment that you were sharing, like you're spreading now that you've learned this stuff, which I love so much. You're spreading the word of how important some of these aspects are that maybe the women that you run into just don't see yet or understand yet. And I love that. So, question, you mentioned that you saw me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
What was the initial video or words or perspective that I was saying that drew you in?
I think it was, it was last summer now, so I forget the exact video it was, but it was just an introduction to macronutrients and the value of macronutrients in your personal health journey, and the fact that so many people out there, particularly women, are just using these or trying these calorie deficit diets. As I said, put a label on them, whichever diet you want to choose, and they may work initially, but you'll eventually gain that weight, and then you'll lose it, and then you'll gain it, and then you'll lose it, and it much like you said, the past conversation resonated with you. That really resonated with me, because I found myself going from 134 pounds to 148 pounds to 136 pounds to 143 pounds, and just like this could be over a week.
Really?
It was like if I had a weekend where I wasn't really focused, I could gain 3 pounds in the weekend. Mm-hmm. And then what that does to me mentally and emotionally is like, oh my God, because it seems like it was, you work so hard for the week, and then if you take a little break on the weekend and you gained back, and I know there's all sorts of things with water weight and salt and retention and all that kind of stuff, but mentally what it did to me was that week I just blew. Like all that hard work was gone, was done for nothing. And I felt like I always had to start at ground zero again, which kind of makes it a little less motivating to you for one like me to continue doing something like that. So as I had mentioned to you earlier before we started recording, I mean, this is a life change for me. Like it's not even hard anymore. Like it was hard in the beginning just to be that disciplined to track things and to learn. Like I consider myself a lifelong learner. Like, my dad said to me years and years and years ago, go get your education. Nobody can take away your education. So when I got my bachelor's degree, when I got my master's degree, like I got my master's degree when I was 48 because I felt like I was at work. I wasn't growing anymore. Let me go learn from somebody else. My kids are in high school and we're doing our papers together, right? Because mom would go all day and have an executive position and come home and do her master's at night. But it was just that nobody was going to take that from me. That was going to be value for myself that I could keep forever. And I see this as the same thing. I mean, this is my journey has been one of education. And not just action, which has to go along with the education, but it's foundational and it's educational. And nobody can take that from me either. Mm-hmm. So being able to use that education, things that I've learned through WarriorBabe, through you, through my coach, through all the other resources that you provide, which is, as an aside, is wonderful because there's so many that I can opt into or not opt into, right? That's education for me, and that's an investment in myself. And so it has been just a totally different mindset for me. Because even though I did not track on Christmas Day, I did not track on Super Bowl Sunday, the next day I was like back at it and never felt like I missed a beat. Where in the past, I would have felt like it was like I ruined a whole week's worth of effort. And I just think that's because I feel empowered because I have knowledge that I didn't have before. Where I don't know that I always had knowledge going into either my own program with just tracking calories or something else that somebody would suggest, did you consider doing this or consider doing that? I wasn't fully knowledgeable about those things. And with knowledge comes power, and I feel totally empowered moving forward.
Wow. That's amazing to hear. When you first started the journey of WarriorBabe, what were your initial thoughts like out of the gate? Like you invested the money, you talked to one of our enrollment advisors, and then you talked to our customer success team, and then they got you to your coach now. Initially out of the gate, what were your thoughts?
It's all on me. It's all on me. I cannot expect it, and it is an investment. You have to decide to make that investment in yourself. I talked to my husband about it because it's not a small amount of money, and with his support, we both agreed like if I'm going to invest, I'm not going to fail. That means you've got to put the work in. You've got to do everything in your power to learn as much as you can and to absorb it. And you can't dispel things that don't fit into your schedule or don't fit into your way of thinking. And I think that that's been really important, that I stay open-minded. So if my coach says something, or you on a video says something, or on the community call somebody says something, and it's not what I believe or agree with, I can't poo-poo it. I can't dismiss it. And I have to stay open to continuous learning so that I can stay dedicated to this investment, because this is a return on investment in me. And I refuse to fail.
I think everybody needs to adopt that mindset, Linda, because I think that's a very profound mindset to have. You're looking and turning it on to you rather than, hey, this program is another program. It's on me to make it successful. It's not the program's fault. A lot of people say it's the program to blame, or the program's not working for me, but it's like, did you work the program? And you can successfully say that you have. I mean, you've been in the program for how long now?
5 months.
And we'll jump really quick and then jump back, but what are some of the successes and top achievements that you've had so far?
So I hate to start with weight, but I will. So this morning I was 128.9, so well below even my goal weight of 135. I have continued to track, with the exception of those 2 days that I had told you about, my macros. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 days in those 5 months where I didn't hit my macros. I had some left over because of travel, or you're eating out with people, or for whatever reason, I just can't shove something else in my mouth. It's now 11 o'clock. I have to go to bed, get up for a meeting the next morning. And I haven't missed a workout. I do 3 workouts a week. I know others may do more than that. But as I talked with my coach, like, I'm a big time walker. I get a lot of steps in during the day. I go to bar class, and I love the variety. So for me, having a lower body, an upper body, and then a full body workout where I can fit it in. So if I travel for my board or whatever, I can change dates on things. So really proud that I've never missed a workout. Even when I had a little bit of a back injury, I wanted to make sure that I was doing what I could, because I didn't want to lose any. I didn't want to be silly and try to risk further injury, but I wanted to make sure that I kept the progress going. So they're the things I'm most proud of. That it's been consistency.
Yes. And there'll be a picture of your before and after attached to this interview. That was what initially made me reach out to you and be like, Linda, I need you to come and interview with me so I can share your story and you can share your story, because that's what blew my mind away, is that you were eating 400 more calories from the first picture to the second picture.
Yeah.
And you've dropped, you said 18 pounds so far, and way past your goal weight of, but the most important thing that I saw in there, and we can attribute to you talking to the point of protein, is you're looking way more toned in your shoulders, in your upper body, and even in your core is tighter too as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just the weight, and it's not just, I think the pictures they tell the biggest story, because while you may have dropped that weight, you're also toning and keeping more of the dense muscle to your body, which then in turn, as you continue to age and get older, the denser your muscle is, the healthier it's going to be, and the healthier that you're going to be as you continue to age, which is, those are, to add to your accomplishments, those would be some additional ones that I'm seeing just from a transformation photo, which is super cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. I certainly do feel that. And even when I said I don't remember being down at this weight in decades, but even when I was, losing weight and I would get into the mid 130s rather, I did not have the physique that I have now. Yes, does the skin sag a little bit more as gravity set in at 63? Or I did not have the tone that I believe I have now. And so that has been really fulfilling for me, because that was one of the goals that I, talked to Hannah about when I first started. And that was, I want to be toned. I've been an athlete in the past, whether it was in school or afterwards, always been active. And I want to have that athletic physique again, even at the age of 63.
I love that. Not many people can say at the age of 63 that they feel the way that you feel right now. So I think that's pretty, you should be very proud of your hard work.
Thank you. I am. Thanks.
Was there anything in the first couple of weeks when you joined WarriorBabe when you were like, or was there like oh, this is different, or this is actually going to work for me? Like, was there any moment at that point at the beginning? Like, what made you, if that was, what made you feel that way?
Yeah, I think the workouts, love the fact that, there's many videos with the workouts, so I can take a look at each of the sets. I do it on my basement. I don't go to a gym. I have a mirror down there. I have all my equipment down there. And so I can really look at my form and really study the form on the videos first. That was really helpful. So I wasn't just jumping into these sets thinking that I know how to do it, because I did not want to get injured. And so that was great. And when I saw that, I thought, boy, this is serious stuff. This isn't somebody just throwing out these sets to me and saying, okay, ready, set, go. But there was some explanations to it. And, my coach was great, saying, if you have any questions whatsoever, send me a video, make sure your form's right. I just felt like the support was there from the beginning, which, you just don't always get, even when you have a personal trainer. You don't know, you may get that when you're kind of like in the gym with them, but I feel like it's kind of 24/7. Like, I have access to resources around the clock. So I kind of knew it was going to work early on, because I felt like the focus It wasn't pushing me too hard in the beginning, but it was like trying to get me acclimated to how my body was going to work with weights. Because as I said, I had done some resistance training, but really small amount of weights, like certainly not the big dumbbells that I'm using now or the equipment that I'm using, and even the resistance bands, using them in different ways, which I love. So yeah, I think that was it, Nikki. I think the fact that I felt like it was structured and supportive and gave me everything I needed, provided that I was going to take advantage of that and leverage those resources.
I love that. That's amazing. Just hearing your entire story, I think it's so cool to know where you were before and where you are now, and the level of education and knowledge you've gained that's going to pursue you to continue on doing this as a lifestyle in a sustainable way, rather than like calories in, calories out, or a different type of approach before.
Yeah.
If you hadn't jumped into Warrior Babe, where do you think you would be now?
I would be in my size 8 jeans instead of in my size 4 jeans. Probably pushing the 10s. I would have that whole closet. Now I've got, when I've yo-yoed back and forth, I kind of move the big clothes to the other closet in the guest room and then bring them back out. And once I had some early success with this, I just said, no more big clothes. I gave them all away. Which I never would do that before, because I always thought there's going to come a time when I may need this. And I'm so confident in the change that I've made that they're gone. Gone.
Did you donate them? Did you put them?
I did. No, I don't. I donated them, and yeah, and we'll continue to do that. I still have a bag of other clothes in there. Not many, but as I'm going through and I'm getting toner and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I don't know that I want to pay to get these adjusted, so we'll just give these away as well. Yeah. So I would have been there. I would have been back to the closet full of multiple sizes, Nikki. I think that's where I would still be. Wow. And not only that, like, I just don't want to make it about the size and the clothes, although that was a big driver for me, feeling good about, I have a whole closet full of clothes. I can only wear, a half of them. But it just feels so much better, as we started with, right? Just the energy, the sleep quality, the, I used to get kind of chronic headaches in my temple, and they'll still come occasionally, but not nearly as much as they were before. My GI tract, as you get older, some foods produce more gas. Like, my GI tract is so much better now, and functioning so much more routinely, that it's just an overall feeling of being well, and also knowing that my body is efficiently using its food. I mean, I think that was a big thing for me too. Like, when I texted my coach, and she kept checking the hunger levels. No, I'm fine. I can't even eat this much. And then, like, in a week, I'm like, oh my God, I'm starving. You have to up my macros. And it was just like, it's just like your body all of a sudden, it's like it hit that kind of threshold where it was firing on all cylinders, and it was being really efficient, and that was a really neat feeling like I've gotten my metabolism back. It's probably not perfect as a 63-year-old woman, but I've gotten my metabolism back to the point where, we keep increasing the macros. I'm eating more calories, and I'm just feeling like my body is loving it.
Literally, we share Warrior Babe success stories on our once a month all hands meetings, and literally my favorite wins when the coaches share the transformations is the ones that have eaten drastically more food, whether it be 400 more calories, or it's 1,000 more calories, or it's 400 grams of carbs, or something like that. Like, I love those stories. I love hearing that you're eating more food. Did you think that would be possible at 63?
No, I really didn't. Coming into this, I thought, I heard the whole thing about more balanced macros is certainly going to help, reset my metabolism, if you will. And I thought, well, yeah, I want to be able to kind of reset the metabolism, but I kept hearing the myth about, like, you're female, you're over this particular age, just forget it. There's no way you're going to reset your metabolism. Like it is what it is. It's a function of age. And so I didn't have a lot of high hopes. I thought that maybe I'd lose some weight. I thought I'd get toned. I didn't know what it would necessarily mean for how I would feel. And I think the whole metabolism thing, the evidence of that, like kind of getting back to, I don't need a paper, somebody to write a scientific paper about that. I feel it. If I feel it, I know it. And so that has been really rewarding because I feel like I'm just burning things efficiently, burning the food as fuel, and it's not just calories in, calories out. It's, really helping my entire system be healthier.
Yes. Two more questions, or maybe three. One, so at the beginning of your journey, you had mentioned that it was maybe a little bit harder to track the macros and to put the food in and eat it by the end of the day. I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of women are like, oh no, this is just too much time, or it's too hard, or it's a lot of food. What would you tell that woman now with your experience of where you're at now and having more food and making it seem like it's easy to track your food?
Yeah, I mean, some people have different methods, right? And it's how organized you are, how much variety you want. When I see within the community, people do this meal planning, and they do the meal planning throughout the week. And okay, I'm gonna make these 5 dinners all at once, and this is what I'm gonna eat this week. I've got to have variety in food, so I don't mind tracking my food every day. Sometimes I'll do it the night before. I'm sitting in bed. It's like, look, let me just list some macros. Let me plan my food in my head, my meals in my head, and then it's already in, so it becomes less of a hassle for me during the day. So, and it doesn't take that long to do it, especially if I know I'm going to have a salad for lunch that may change up a little bit, but I do typically have a salad for lunch. MyFitnessPal allows you to just copy it to the next day. You don't have to put in those 8 or 9 or 10 different things that are in your salad, right? So that's relatively easy. And I'd like a variety in my pre-workout meal. And my post-workout meal tends to be pretty similar, so I can kind of copy and paste that to the next day. But I don't find it to be overwhelming in the scheme of things. And what I mean by that is if you would actually track how long it takes you to track those macros, it doesn't take that much time. If you kind of get used to it and you find some shortcuts and you find some ways to do it. Now, my coach had said to us on a huddle call about using your scale more than using the measuring cup. And, certain things I do use the measuring cup for, but other things I have started using the scale for. And it's made a world of difference too, just in terms of tracking accuracy. So for people who have like, Jesus is going to take too long, I think just like anything else, Nikki, you do it for a couple of weeks and it becomes habit. And you just have to say, this is part of the process. So I'm going to track early on. I used to use a different fitness track or nutrition tracker that wasn't nearly as, I think, sophisticated. And so, but I was used to kind of doing that when I was doing my calories in, calories out kind of a thing. So I was kind of used to it, but in terms of meal prep and making sure I have variety, I like to almost do it on a daily basis. And as I said, in the scheme of things, even if it takes you a half hour to do every meal, all 3 meals or 6 meals or however many you're doing throughout the day, that's not a lot of time. It doesn't even take me that long. I typically sit down while I'm having my morning breakfast and I plug in the rest of the day.
I love that. That would be similar to how I would explain like track the night before. Like if you're in your bed, why as well? Like rather than like scrolling on other apps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It makes it that it's choosing the time and how you choosing the time wisely, and then it becomes easier with the more time and effort and action you put into it. So by week 1 may take you half an hour to go around your kitchen, put things together, think about it. But then if you can consistently keep doing it, by week 3, week 4, it'll take you 5-10 minutes to like put your meals together, if that.
Yeah, and even at the end of the day, when I may have some, end of the day, I mean like after dinner, when I may have some macros left, like I'm so used to what macros are in what foods now. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that many. Okay, I'll go have an orange before after
Love
dinner.
that.
And so you kind of just get used to it, and it becomes, secondhand to you. And once again, it's part of your knowledge base.
I love that you keep saying that. I think that's so important. I think that if you really want to make a profound transformation, it requires you to do things differently than what you're doing now. And that requires a level of education, a level of open-mindedness to say, hey, I'm going to grasp this information. I'm going to try and put it to action. And even though you said earlier, even if you don't agree with it, I'm not going to down it. Maybe it's something that I just haven't had that type of perspective on before.
Right.
I love that you keep going back to the knowledge aspect of it, and you're a forever learner. I really appreciate that, because that's a huge part of your success in just a little over 5 months is you learned this, you grasped it, it made sense intuition wise in terms of science, and you applied it and you took action to it. So I thank you for the hard work that you've put in, because you're from having this conversation with you and the level of consistency and dedication, effort you've put in, you are a true warrior babe, someone that really just comes in open-minded and takes action. And then you're reaping the rewards of your hard work.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that validation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. One last question for you. For someone that's watching this right now and who is unsure about taking a next step, what would you tell them about Warrior Babe and the impact that it could have on their life?
I would just say learn what you can, kind of back to this notion of knowledge. Because as I had mentioned, I heard your initial Instagram video and then I went researching, and all the research pointed to the same sort of thing, right? And then, so that's the first thing. And the second thing is you've got to know you. You've got to know whether or not you are going to be committed to this. And I would say, regardless of what it is, whether it's Warrior Babe or anything else, if you aren't totally committed to it, you're never going to be successful. And so you have to start there, because it's an investment in you, and it's a return on investment in you for life. And don't kid yourself in thinking that you're ready for that if you're not. But if you are, it is so well worth it. Take the plunge, make the investment, stay committed, and it's not going to take forever for you to start seeing results.
Thank you, Linda. I think that's a very powerful way to end this interview. And I think of all the interviews that I've done so far, the consistency of mention of commitment is what is coming across all these interviews of speaking to all you warrior babes. Is you have to be committed to do this program, or in any program that you come across. If you're not committed, then it's the same level of energy is going to come to the results that you get. If you're committed, you're going to get the results that you want over time. If you're not committed, then you're going to have a lack in the results that you want. So thank you for being here. And anybody that's listening right now, like, Linda's journey is proof that sometimes it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, and it's about focusing on the right nutrition, the right training. And she's unlocked a level of strength, a level of energy, and a level of confidence that she never thought was possible. But the most important thing that I'm taking away from this interview today is that she was very open-minded to learning something that was different than what she was doing before, which was calories in, calories out. She grasped the understanding of macronutrients and then just put the plan to work that her coach gave her. And if anybody is listening right now, if you're stuck or you're not sure where to go and you just want to stop guessing and you want to start seeing results, then take the first step today and join Warrior Babe. Linda, thank you so much for that story and for your time.
You're welcome, Nikki. Thanks.
You keep crushing it, because you still got but more than half of a year left. I can't imagine what's going to come of your results by the end of it.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.